Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you are joining us today. Today we have Tanna Fox with us. We're so excited. Tanna is a dear friend of mine and also an expert in many things. How are you, Tanna?
Good, Jane. So fun to be with you today.
We're so excited to have you here to talk about self-leadership and goal setting. Honestly, I think when I thought about who to have on for this topic, you were the first person that came to mind. Tanna is an expert in systems and goal setting and helping other people achieve goals, specifically nutritional goals. So we're so thrilled to have you.
Oh, thanks. I'm excited for this chat today. Thanks for asking.
I'm going to just read a little bit of her bio because she is amazing. So just a few minutes here. Tanna is the owner and founder of Live Right Nutrition. You should follow her on Instagram on Motherline Nutrition for all of her tips. As a graduate from the University of Utah in health education, a past personal trainer, and an international sports certified nutritionist, she has a deep love for fitness and understands the power of food. She works as the sports nutritional consultant for MVP Sports Science Institute in Holladay, Utah. Counseling with young elite athletes and guiding their nutrition intake helps them maximize their performance and enhance their strengths. Tanna is passionate about probiotics in food and teaches private classes in the community or can be found, they can be found coming into her home for hands-on help. She also has many businesses and 4 darling daughters and a loving husband, and we're just thrilled to have her here with us.
It'll be so fun.
Okay. Well, I just thought we should start out. So our monthly training talked about goal setting and breaking down big goals. Two of the examples we used were educational goals, but I'd love to use and talk about just everyday goals, how to break those down, where to start. So maybe let's talk about identifying a goal, and you just start wherever you want.
Yeah, I just love this topic so much. I think that anytime we get a chance or an opportunity to set a goal, we should seize it. Because truly, if you look back at your life, like even in the last year or so, I am always so surprised at how much more progress we make when we set a goal, even if it's just an idea, a little sprout or a little seed inside our head of like, oh, I think I want to learn more about this. I'll grab a couple books, whatever it is, and just kind of watch that cultivate into developing and becoming a better part of myself. I think that there's casual ways to set goals. I think there's formal ways to set goals. But either way you look at it, it's something that can enhance the way you live and your happiness and your potential and your influence for good anywhere you go is just by kind of knowing that, gosh, I'm a lot better than I am day to day if I set a goal and have something to look forward to.
I love that. I love the idea of just thinking about, as you find yourself thinking about something, you may want to jot it down on your phone and make a little note of like, oh, I'm interested in this. And then it may develop into, I want to know more. And then into, I want to set a goal to learn how to water ski or whatever it is, Yeah. So I love that idea.
It's so true. It's actually one of the most or probably I think it's a tool we just don't use enough is probably the way that I want to say it. I think if we actually just put our mind to it and decide that we will set goals and accomplish them, you could change the world just with one simple small goal that doesn't even have to take this drastic lifestyle change, these drastic, acts of discipline, but little by little, kind of this line upon line type of a concept. Next thing you know, it's actually achieved and you're like so grateful that you did it. It's worth it. Any goal to improve yourself, your knowledge, your body, your health, your mind, it's always going to be worth it.
I love that. Maybe I would love to see an example in your life or in one of your teens' lives of a goal that you have a big goal and you break it down to like kind of a daily action. Could we do that together?
Yes, let's talk about this because truly a lot of the times you will have a goal. Let's say you have a broad goal of like, okay, I want to be healthier. Well, that's a great goal, right? But that goal is so big and so broad, we actually need to dissect it into smaller strategies. So the way a goal is actually achieved is through the different strategies or little smaller bites, if you will, of how it's going to be. So if you want to be healthier, let's say, one of the first things you need to do is, okay, what does that look like? Well, I'm going to specifically find time to exercise 2 or 3 times a week. A very specific, not really negotiable act of something that you're going to do. Most goals have more than one strategy. Like, for example, in the health department, which is what I work so much with, I work with dozens and dozens of clients.
Hundreds and hundreds.
Yes, I mean, over the last
Being modest, Tanna.
well, it's all about reaching their goals. And everybody has a little bit of a different goal, depending on whatever we choose to work with. But the goal itself can, again, like I said, be broken down. So they're going to have multiple parts, right? There has to be, when setting a goal, you have to kind of fill a void. You can't just set a goal and expect yourself to magically elevate there. You have to create your own steps. You have to create your own platform and a way to actually rise to achieve that goal. And so I think these strategies and setting very specific ways to get there is really going to be the critical part. So again, kind of using this example of being healthy. Well, instead of just saying, I want to eat healthier, well, what does that look like? Oh, I'm going to go to the grocery store and I will buy 5 apples this week. That's 5 times this week in the next 7 days that I'm going to eat an apple once a day, right? There you go. Little by little, you'll create a very specific step to help you reach it. And you can make them really in depth and really, really detailed. But sometimes they can be just as generic as, okay, instead of buying cereal, I'm going to buy oatmeal, right? And then when it's home, you kind of know, like, oh, I better eat that oatmeal. I bought it. I do want to achieve that goal. So making sure that you have good strategies to achieve your goal is probably one of the very first steps that we can take to really, truly achieve that in a doable way, right? In a way that doesn't feel so overwhelming. Because if you just let that goal float above you, sometimes when you don't act towards it, it can almost be like become a weight on your shoulder. And you're like, oh, I was to be healthier, but maybe later or maybe tomorrow or whatever it is. But creating a strategy to achieve your goal is probably one of the very first things I would say to just look at and see how you can create specific ways to achieve the goal you want to attain. Another way that these strategies help, Jane, I mean, and you can kind of jump in if you feel like you have anything to add, because you know, so well. I mean, you've helped me with, always just chatting about these wonderful concepts together. But strategies are great, but I think the best way for these strategies to stay at the forefront of your mind is to put them into a system, to put them into a routine. So if you think about it, right, everybody goes to bed and when the sun sets for the most part, and then we all wake up when the sun rises. Yeah. So every 24 hours, there is a rhythm to our day, right? And that rhythm actually can be very detailed as well. But for the most part, we all kind of run on a 24-hour rhythm. And that really is how the whole world works, like the whole universe. So all of the systems, whether they are plant systems, sprouts to big giant trees, whether it's the solar system, whether it's systems in our city, right? Like think of like the sewer system, think of the plumbing system in our home. Every really good organization or good functioning project has a really amazing system behind it. And so I like to think, how can I take these strategies and put them into a system in my life? Okay, let's go back to the example of buying, apples a day. Well, if you don't have a set day that you go to the grocery store, when are you gonna ever buy those apples, right? So maybe it goes down to kind of even a one step further that like every Monday, I'm gonna go to the grocery store. I'm gonna try to buy all of these healthier food choices so that I can put that into a system, right? Same thing with choosing to be active. Like if you want to get outside, and I think this is actually, on a side note, what a fun topic to choose to be healthier, because as a side note, everyone, anytime you choose to improve your health, you're going to choose your mental capacity. And so I just love this teen leadership, topic where we're all striving for better quality. Tying your health and your mental state, really, they go hand in hand. So just kind of a random side note. But
I really love this idea of that you mentioned, that in order to create a new system, you have to fill a void. So really, you're taking something out of your life and replacing it with this new system, this new goal. So if it's being more active, it may be like, instead of watching 30 minutes of Netflix when I get home from school, I'm going to walk my dog around the block for 30 minutes and then do my next thing. Or instead of grabbing a donut, I'm going to grab the apple for my snack midday.
Exactly.
You really have to think about it and plan it, or you're just, as humans, we naturally go into these old habits.
Yes, that's such a good habits too, is because they say it takes about 61 days to form a habit. But one of the things that I feel like when people do start to set some goals, they set really good lofty goals because we have a lot of momentum, we have a lot of energy. So they give themselves a disciplined strategy list. They try to put it into a good routine. But one of the things that we forget to do is to also put into a system of time to rest, a time to watch that Netflix like I talked about, because we can only exercise certain amount of discipline before we literally fatigue out of that. So the key is not to be on or off of setting goals and working towards something. The key is to find a balance and that rhythm and that pattern in a system. So that's why I say maybe it is for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to get home and I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to do this. But guess what happens on Saturday? I get to sit down and watch my Netflix, or I get to have my cake or my dessert or whatever it is. But if you can plan and prepare for the enjoyment part of the things that we do love, like there's all, reasons our habits are what they are is because they're comfortable maybe, or they're enjoyable for us, but to never feel like you have to cut everything out at once, right?
Yeah.
Because truth be told, and we can attest to this too, is sometimes those strategies and those goals will not be reached as quickly as we want to. Like that's just part of the reality that we have to face. But I love the idea of thinking that, if you don't quite reach the goal, or you might not stay in the rhythm, or the system, the strategy isn't quite dialed in yet, it's instead of taking that as a step back or a failure or something that I could have done better, and kind of carrying again around that guilt or this idea that you're not good enough and that was too high of a goal, to take that experience, to take that feeling and just realize that a bad day is just good data. Right? You came home and you actually were like, I should go for a walk, but let's sit down and watch Netflix. Maybe that day you had an emotional experience that drained you a little bit more. Maybe that day you didn't get that apple. Maybe that day you didn't quite plan, right? Or you slept in, or you up too late on your phone. There's always a reason why sometimes those goals and those strategies or the systems might unwind for a minute. And so to always allow for compassion on yourself. And I love this phrase, for these unforced rhythms of grace to come in. Whatever goal you attain is such a wonderful idea and opportunity to become better, right? But in that to become better, we will make mistakes along the way. And so the point is not how fast I reach the goal or what mistakes I made along the way, but how am I watching for opportunities along the way to see grace in my life, to see where, gosh, you know what, I might not have planned this well today, but I came home and my mom had something ready for me to eat. Oh, that was an opportunity to see and recognize, a little bit of this grace on how you can still achieve your goal without feeling like it 100% relies on us and our discipline. I mean, I don't know. Does that make sense? I articulate.
No, it totally makes sense, because I think that I see this in myself, all or nothing thinking that I'm on. Oh, I made one mistake, or I, if it's academic, I failed a test, or whatever it is, that one problem is not going to set you back for the rest of the year, or for that grade. It can literally just be that you can have that self-compassion moment where you think you recalibrate and come up with a new strategy to really work with that new situation that you found yourself in, like a failed test or a workout you missed. Like if you make a mistake on that goal path, it's not the end.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's a really important part to realize, because it can be scary to set goals. Like I have plenty of people that I know, and you might know some too, that just like, I'm done with New Year's resolutions. I'm kind of done with goals. I'm just happy being me and content, which is a time and a place for that. But I think as becoming leaders, right? And especially as in our youth, there is so much power to be had in setting the goals and realizing, okay, I'm going to work towards this, but if I don't quite accomplish it perfectly, that's okay too. We're still on this train, these steps, if you will, to
Mhm.
progress and to become influential members of the community.
I love it. Um, I love all of this. I think it's so amazing. I want to talk about a little bit about daily systems.
Okay.
Tell me about, I mean, Tanna is just a pro at this. In your day-to-day life, so say you have a big goal. I mean, we've already talked about this a little bit, but say someone wants to, they have an ACT test coming up,
Okay.
and they have this idea that they want to improve their score by 7 points. And how do I take this big goal and break it down into something small? And what would that look like? I'm thinking more in the day-to-day of my life. How do I implement that in?
Oh, I love that question. So it can be.
A lot of juniors and sophomores are thinking,
Oh, yes, it's so true. That ACT again, it kind of hovers. And you're like,
hovers.
hey, I've just got
But
to either.
if we don't address, we can have this goal, but if
Yeah.
we don't, I just know that there are some of these student ambassadors who have this desire and this goal, but they don't quite know how to break it down into bite-sized pieces.
Yes. I love this. Okay. And this will go back to kind of when you set a goal, because goals are so specific, right? For the individual, like getting
Yeah.
7 points higher for one teen will be probably the same exact goal, but it will look different for another teen, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
of the different areas why is your score a little bit lower, or where do you need to strengthen versus where does someone else need to strengthen? But they're still the same goal, but they're going to be.
Daily habits will probably be the same of implementing, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I always go back to the individual, right? So if that's my goal, let's say I have a daughter who's a teen ambassador, and let's say I'm going to try to help her get, talk about how she can get 7 points higher. One of the first things that I would do is be like, okay, what's the void? What's missing again in this goal? Why are you not achieving it? What is missing? And to kind of go in and fill in these little gaps. Well, maybe it's because the whatever topic, maybe it was the reading that was a little bit lower versus the math. So first you find out what the void was.
Identifying where that weakness is.
Exactly. Thank you. Identifying where the weakness is. And then from there, why is that weak for me? Oh, well, maybe it's because I don't really love the topic, right? Or maybe because it's intimidating to me, and diving in and figuring out, what am I needing to learn? So then I think, okay, clearly the void is going to.
There's kind of this research phase where we have to kind of dig deeper and.
Exactly. And I think if you go back to like kind of understanding that knowledge is power on so many levels, that's the core of it. To know where your weak link is really is one of the most powerful tools you can in achieving your goals. So kind of diving in, okay, what's the weak link? What's the void I need to fill? Identifying that, and then investigating. Like find out how much you don't know about the topic. Like I think that's when I learned the most, is when I realize, oh, I don't know this much about this particular topic. Let me just start to research. I'm like, oh, I know that. I know. Oh, I do not know that, and that. Then it identifies, where am I lacking? And now I have even more specific targets of what kind of goals I need to set, and what more specifically strategies I need to do. So let's say you find out that if reading is your weak spot, or maybe it's the essay part, right? The writing. Then you start to think, okay, well, that is just my weak spot. Okay, well, it's because I probably don't know grammar as well, and I probably don't know sentence structure as well. And then you just start to learn all you can. But rather than overwhelm yourself with an all-at-once approach, this is where I love the calendar. This is where I just love daily repetitions and systems.
This is what I want you to share with everybody, because you are such a pro at this.
Well, I look ahead. Okay, well, the goal has to be reached by this day. And then I count backwards. Okay, that gives me 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay, and now I've got exactly 6 weeks to reach my goal. And then I just literally work backwards, and I start to put this into a calendar form and know that, okay, starting now, I'm going to start with learning the basics of punctuation. And then I'm going to learn the basics of sentence structure. And then I'm going to learn the basics of paragraph structure. And then rather than feeling so overwhelmed by improving your writing, you literally can divide it into smaller sections so that little by little, you're gaining that kind of, when you do a layered cake, it's one layer, little frosting, next layer, little frosting. But if you just dumped it all together and tried to pour frosting all of it, it would be a massive mess. Right? Yeah. It might taste, I don't know, but it would look, you just don't even know. But if you go at it from an organized structure, and then within that structured goal system, what does it look like to study that in your day? Look at your schedule that you already have. Like maybe you have a job to work at. Maybe you have some classes you have to achieve. Maybe you have some responsibilities at home. So where are you going to find time to study? That's what it looks like to put a system into your day. And then you think, okay, well, I know I have to do X, Y, and Z for sure. That's not negotiable. I can't miss my job, right? Or I can't miss feeding myself or whatever it is. And then you think, but there is that hour window at night when I sit on my phone and I scroll through my feed a little bit, probably longer than I could. Gosh, if I can just make sure I study first and get specific things done in that window, right? Then that goal, little by little, day by day, becomes accomplished in a system, in a routine, which then becomes a pattern. And then for the next 6 weeks, you've created this beautiful routine where you honestly, it almost becomes second nature. And you start to feel this connection and this motivation with it. And one of the things that I thought we could talk about too, just in this, this feels like this is maybe something hard to find motivation to do, but you want to do it. I love the idea, Jane, that action is really what creates motivation. So
I love that.
Feel,
feeling unmotivated, just start.
Just start.
Yeah.
Right. Just even get a piece of paper and look at the calendar and just start doing something, right? And maybe do a quick little Google search on YouTube classes to read better or to write better or whatever. Yes. And then there you go. You're like, oh, okay, that little action right there, I promise, will create a wave of something to do next. And then it will start. And the next, that little tiny roller waves then becomes tsunamis. And next thing you know, you're like, that goal, I did it. And there's satisfaction. Then you go on to the next goal. Okay, now I've got ready, to write this and I want to apply to this college and do this. And you start to elevate your life in a way that feels so doable and so exciting. It's like the greatest adventure to see what you want to achieve and then watch yourself achieve it, because it's within every single one of us. There's not one person that is going to be better at another in improving, right? It's a human desire in all of us to improve and be better. And so to know an underlying truth that we all can improve really does give a little bit of that excitement, to the goal setting.
And it's really, as we take on these new skills and this ability to break down something big, we really are taking on this education and learning to take on problems and future assignments or issues that come up in the workplace. And that you've done it with a goal in your life. You can apply that same learning to other problems and big issues in your life. I love that goal setting and working on it really applies to so many other things.
Well, and even as you're talking, gosh, it's kind of making me think too a little bit, like even in the process of setting your goals and achieving them, there's always someone that you could help along the way or teach this to, or a buddy. Like at least with you and I, we're like, okay, we have a couple goals. Let's do this week. But if we go together, it'll be so much more fun.
It's so much easier.
Grab a buddy and to hold each other accountable for certain things and to find joy in that process. That is also part of the process in becoming and finding joy and becoming a great leader. And you might together discover things that you wouldn't discover alone. So there's just a small little thought of that too. And just see if you can start the beginning process of this community involvement, right? And maybe achieving a goals together, or find maybe 5 people that want to do it with you together or something like that.
I was just thinking, if you're good at chemistry and your friend is good at tennis, you can actually swap and help each other. Like,
so true.
You help her learn tennis. She helps you learn chemistry so that you can do better on your test. That each of us have these different strengths, and what to share your strengths with someone else and then learn from that friend in return, that we all kind of help each other and elevate each other as we're reaching towards our goals.
It's so true. And what you might think might be one of your greatest weaknesses right now, whether it is reading or studying or something like that, if you continue to work on that, there is a point in your life where that great weakness then becomes your strength. And then from that point on, your influence becomes even more broad and your leadership becomes more genuine because you worked through that specifically yourself. So it's really important to never give up on these goals and set goals that might feel big. I mean, set the 1-year goal, set the 1-week goal, set the 1-day goal, but then also you can set a 5-year and a 10-year and just create the vision of who you want to be, and know that the way you'll get there is not just looking at it on a piece of paper, but actually just starting to take these little steps create the strategies, create systems, create a rhythm. And the next thing you know, you're little by little creating this and becoming these beautiful and these wonderful, powerful leaders that our community really needs.
Well, I'm going to be a little vulnerable and share a goal that I have been working on for over a year, just to illustrate the power of a few minutes a day. So I set a goal to study Chinese every day. And I knew that if I set this 10-minute goal or half an hour goal, that it would be too much. So I literally set the goal to study one lesson on Duolingo a day. And I need to back up and say that I used to be conversant in Chinese, but it's been about 15 years. And so I knew I needed to make it tiny, just tiny, one lesson that sometimes takes 3 minutes, sometimes takes 5 minutes. But by setting it really, really small and putting my expectation really low, I've been able to do that for over a year every day. And it is amazing to look back now on that little bite every day, how much it's added and become. I'm very far into the program now because I've just taken a little bite at a time. So that's my push for breaking large goals down and really making them bite size. That day by day, as we do these little simple things, it can be 1 minute of math. It can be 1 minute grammar lesson, whatever it is you're working on. If you take it down and make it tiny and achievable, it really does build your confidence. And I'm taking on other goals now because I've had success with that. So.
And one thought I had too, is you're talking about that and Chinese, it might not have anything to do with physical health or whatever it is. Like some of the other goals that we have as people or as women and mom and teenagers and whoever else. But that if you have a goal in one area of your life, let's say it's an intellectual goal, like going back to the ACT goal, I've learned that goals can never really actually be isolated. And by that concept, I mean that there are 4 areas of health and improvement. There's intellectual, right? Then there's social and emotional, there's spiritual, and there's physical. And that sometimes if you're setting a goal, maybe in the intellectual department, and you really are going to focus on that, and you're going to dive right in and enjoy that goal and work on it, you could also consider setting a goal in the other 3 areas. Maybe not ones that are going to be so time intensive, but maybe it's like, oh, I'll improve a relationship with a sibling, right? Or maybe I'll start a service project, or maybe I'll just have an apple a day. But that as you remember that all of these areas of improvement really are webbed together in our mind and our body, that there is this sense of becoming and elevating our skills that come together as well. So if you're feeling like, okay, I'm just going to work on my school studies. Well, on the side, maybe just pick up a walk or maybe pick up something else in another area of health and wellness. And I promise you will start to see how they overlap, right? Like for you with Chinese, it comes so, you've worked so hard at it, but I know that so much of the reason that is becoming clear in your mind is because you take care of your physical body, right? You are exercising and you are eating what's right and you're getting the right amount of sleep. And so even though it might not directly be related, a physical goal to an intellectual goal, they do overlap and they help facilitate and help each other grow together. And that really is a concept that it's like this synergistic effect that happens naturally. You don't even have to work at it. They just start to come because that's literally how our mind and bodies work best.
Oh, well, this has been amazing. I love it all. We need to wrap up. This has been so fun to talk forever. Is there any last tip or quote that you live by or anything you want to share with us? We're so glad that you could spend this time with us today and share your wisdom and expertise. It's been incredible. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been so fun. I love talking about this. And I think I just love the idea of reaching and working towards goals. There's a million thoughts that I have. I think there was one that popped into my head just a minute ago about achieving goals and becoming brighter and better leaders. And it's actually just a quote from Les Mis, good old Victor Hugo. And he says this: true division in life are those who live in light and those who live in darkness. That is why we demand education subconsciously amongst ourselves. And so I just love this idea of thinking that every time you try to achieve something better, you're actually just reaching towards light, and light turns on and illuminates so many more opportunities and so many more experiences. So as you gain education, as you gain and work and achieve these goals, light bulbs will come on for you in everywhere you go, and you will start to see things clear, and you'll know better your purpose and how to be a good leader. And I just think that is really such a big distinction between, you know, human nature, those that want to live in light and those that kind of are just happy, just kind of muddling along in darkness. And so just keep trying and keep pushing towards more education and goals and light, and all of your leadership and your potential will just start to rise naturally without feeling, you know, too stressful or too heavy. I'm just so proud of all these amazing youth leaders that are just working on becoming their best selves.
It's incredible. They are incredible. And I'm just happy to be a part to motivate them as they're learning and on their journey through high school and setting goals. And it's just a privilege to be a part of it. Well, thank you, Tanna. We're so glad you could join us, and we'll just sign off from here.
Yes, thanks so much.